Icelocked here with Nocturne Gaming, back with more Legends of Eidolon, and today we're taking a look at printer sampling. I am going to break this into two different sections. The first is going to be how to increase your printer sampling size. The second is the basics on how to increase your overall gains to get more out of your printer sampling size. If you need more information on the 3D printer itself, I will have another video linked in the description below titled The 3D Printer, and this will go over how to use the printer itself. With all of that being said, let's get started with how to increase your printer sample size. And we're going to start with the base thing, which is the talent in Star Talents, and it's the printer sampling talent. When you cast this, you gain a percentage of your AFK gain rates as a sample that you can then 3D print. At base, you only have a 10% sampling rate, and that's with 1 talent point in printer sampling. However, if you increase this to 100 points in printer sampling, you will have 17.5% printer sampling rate. This is a pretty easy gain, and it's one of the largest gains that you can get directly for your printer sampling. The next benefit we can look at is from the Salt Lick, and immediately when you unlock the Salt Lick, you'll have access to samples taken for the 3D printer are bigger. Each level of this will give you a 0.5% more printer sampling size, and at level 20, it's a total of 10% larger sample size. However, this does require 33,000 Redox Salt to be able to get to level 20. And while we're in World 3, we'll also talk about the Merit Board, and this is in your tasks. In the Merit Shop, you can purchase the printer sampling size per purchase. Each level of this will give you 0.5% to your printer sample size for a total of 5% more printer sample size if you have this maxed out. And moving on to your bonuses in World 2, you can get them both from Alchemy, and the first is the Sample It Bubble. This is a pretty easy gain of 5 to 6% by getting your bubble to level 30 to 40, but it does cap out at 9.6% if you have your Alchemy bubble at level 160. The other bonus in Alchemy comes from your vials, and it's the Snow Slurry Vial, and this gives you 0.5% printer sampling size per level that you have. However, if you have the lab bonus connected, you can double this to give you 1% printer sampling size per level. This does cap out at level 14, but it is fairly hard to get there if you don't have enough resources, as it does get quite expensive. But this is a pretty easy 5 to 10% that you can gain from your Snow Slurry Vial. There is one more bonus in World 2, and it's from the post office, and the utilitarian capsule box here can give you up to 3.33% to your printer sampling size. This is quite expensive early game until you have enough leftover boxes, but it is another way you can gain a few more percent out of your printer sampling if you have the spare boxes. And the last bonus that you can technically get in World 2 is from the arcade, and this depends on what rotation the rewards are in the arcade shop. Every time there's a patch, Lava does change which of these bonuses are available in the arcade. However, you can get some more printer sampling size from the arcade. It is quite expensive depending on the number of golden balls that you have. However, it is up to 2% more sample size from the arcade if you want to spend your golden balls here. And moving on to our stamps, there is the Stample stamp to give you another bonus to your 3D printer sampling. However, this is a very small bonus and the cost does stack up quite high. There is a diminishing returns on this stamp, so the more of the levels that you have in here, the less you'll actually gain for the cost of more resources and more coins. But you can get an additional 1% here, as well as from the lab, you can double the bonuses from your stamps, so you will actually get 2% from the 3D printer sampling at a decent cost. Another bonus that you'll passively get is from the family bonuses, and as long as you have the Maestro Man unlocked, you will get a bonus to your printer sampling size. This does increase with each level that you gain, but it is fairly slow. At my level, I'm gaining about 0.01% to my printer sampling size per level that I get on my Maestro Man, but that's a free 3.27% that I can get just because I have a Maestro. Another bonus that you can get is if you're playing on your Squire, you can put points into the talent super samples on the third tab, and this can give you up to 6% more sample size from your Squire. This is only useful while playing on this class, so I mainly use it while I'm trying to sample my ores or in anything in mining. Up next is our last bonus to 3D printer sampling size, and this comes from the World 3 Prayer Obelisk. However, there is a large penalty here, so I want to explain some of the numbers before we get into it, and that is that your printer sampling is capped at 90% of your AFK gains. So with everything else I've shown you so far, I'm at about 70%. It is possible to get to 76% if you cap out everything else. So how do we get that last little bit to cap it out? This comes from the Royal Sampler Prayer, and this does give you a large bonus. At base, it gives you 15% to your 3D printer sample size. It can give up to 43%. However, every level that you level this prayer up gives you a penalty to all your EXP gain, and it requires you to remove all of your current samples from this character before you can unequip this prayer. So I really recommend that you don't level this up unless you just really want that extra percent to cap out at 90%. As there's currently no way to de-level this prayer, so you'll always be stuck with that EXP gain penalty unless you want to completely unequip all of your samples and redo them. Alright, so we have our 3D printer capped at 90%, so let's talk about the basics of how to increase your overall gains. If you want more detailed versions on increasing a specific skill or a character's talent builds, please check out the rest of the channel as there's videos already made or are coming soon. So the first thing we need to do is check our AFK info here, as this tells you what your base gain rate is. This is a little easier to see in any of the skilling, as it directly tells you your ores per hour or your logs per hour, whatever you're looking at. However, on the mob drops, you will need to kind of guess, as it only really tells you your kills per hour. However, increasing your kills per hour will increase your drops per hour. The only other thing you can do is increase your drop rate. But let's get on with this one, and we're looking at ores per hour here. And there's two ways we can increase our ores per hour. First is increasing our AFK gain rate, or we can increase our efficiency to get a more of a multi-ore chance, because as we get to the next breakpoint, it will increase this quantity per drop from 45 to 46, and that'll give us an overall gain to our ores per hour. Alright, so let's quickly go over the other bonuses. We're not going to get in depth, I just want to mention everything really quick. The first is stamps, and stamps are pretty much anything you can increase to give you more kills per hour or more skilling per hour. So your combat stamps, anything that you can increase in here will give you a benefit for multi-kill. For skilling, any of your efficiencies are really great to have. And then we're moving on to our statues next. Our statues, anything you can do to give you more power to increase your kills per hour or more efficiency from these stamps. There's also the feasty effect that can really boost your food, as this affects your skilling speed or your overall survivability, which can increase your kills per hour for mob drops. Next is your star signs, and anything that you can do to increase your AFK gain rates here, such as your skill AFK gain rates, your mob respawn, or your fight AFK gain rates are really good to help your kills per hour and increase your overall efficiency. Moving on to World 2, there's a lot that you can do here, starting with alchemy. Basically anything you level up in alchemy will increase something in the game. These really big ones are things like Wyoming Blood to increase your multi-ore chance, or the Mr. Massacre bonus can really help your multi-kill, as this gives you multi-kill per damage tier. So having these large bubbles equipped can give you another big bonus. Make sure you're leveling up your vials, as there is a ton of bonuses that you can get fairly easy here. Things to increase your overall efficiency for your skilling, or things like the Slurgy drink that can increase your base multi-kill per tier for a few upgrades. Don't forget about your obols, as these can give you a large bonus to your overall skilling power or your base stats. And then there's also the multi-kill obols, which can give you another large bonus to your overall multi-kill if you're looking for monster drops. In the post office, there's also a ton of benefits, such as increasing your overall mining efficiency or your prowess effect, or even your AFK gain rates. For mob drops, you can level up things like the Civil War memory box or the Death Storage Unit, which can also give you another bonus to your overall multi-kill. In the arcade, there's a couple small benefits that you can get, such as your AFK gain rates, your multi-kill per tier, or even increasing your base damage to get a little bit more out of your overall multi-kill. At the World 3 Prayer Obelisk, the main things you can get are Skilled Dimwit to increase your overall efficiency, or for mob drops you can get Balance of Pain to give you more multi-kill per damage tier. Our largest bonus to multi-kill for mob drops comes from the Death Note, as this is just an insane bonus, as I get about 85% per damage tier from this. But don't forget about the Salt Lick, as you can get more multi-kill rate from this, as well as another bonus to your total damage, which can help boost you to the next tier. In World 4, there's a few bonuses, starting with the Lab. There's a lot of bonuses that you can get here, such as Animal Farm to give you more damage based on how many pets you've unlocked. The Killer's Brightside does not work for your mob drop rate, but it is a great way to level up your Death Note to get more multi-kill that way. Then there is the Jewel that can give you more damage. There's the Stamp Book that can double the bonuses that you get from your stamp. And there's also the My First Chemistry Set to double your bonuses from your vials. The last one here is the Unadulterated Banking Fury to give you more total damage based on how many resources you have, with at least 10 million of them in your bank. Also in the lab is your chips, and this can give you some more great bonuses to increase your overall gains. The main ones to look at are things like to increase your total damage, or these to increase your total skilling efficiency. There's also these nuts here that give you more multi-kill per damage tier. You can use more than one of the same chip on each character, so you can get huge bonuses to your multi-kill by using these nuts. And our last set of bonuses come from the dinner menu, and there are so many bonuses here it's hard to cover them all, but there are things like total damage as well as increasing your overall skill efficiency, and there is so many bonuses that I really recommend spending some time leveling up your meals, as it is one of the largest late game upgrades you can get to increase your overall gains for your account. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're enjoying this type of content, and a huge shout out to our Patreon members that support the work we do. Thank you from all of us here at Nocturne Gaming. If you would like to become a patron and get some added benefits, check out the link in the description. If you have any thoughts, comments, or questions, please leave them down below for me, and we'll see you next time.